as is Mr. Diamond. Mary's here in the room, and so is Jackie.
Okay. With that said, we'll call the personnel administrator.
I just need to double check with Jeremy to make sure he's all set. Okay,
See his thumbs up. Okay, with that, we'll call the Personnel Administrative Committee meeting to order. First thing we need is a motion to approve the minutes of the prior committee meetings.
I'll make the motion.
Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor Frazier. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Carried. Okay, is there any privilege of the floor before we get started here? If not, we'll go right into our action agenda. Number one is our human resources, a review of the report on tracking of vacancies filled. I'm sure everybody has a copy of that. I'm not sure if anybody has any questions, but we do have Trish here in the meeting that can answer any questions.
Chairman,
Supervisor Bramer.
thank you so much. I don't have a question specifically with respect to any of those items in the table. I guess my concern is about our finances going forward and thinking perhaps we should put a freeze on any new hiring at this time for some period of time until we get a better handle of what's going on.
Well, I think you must have read my mind because that was the next thing I was going to talk about. I think that is a great idea that we do go back to, I know when I first became a supervisor, everything went through the Board of Supervisors before any backfills were made, any hiring.
Yeah, I think we need to do something to put a little tamper down on this a little bit. So I'll make a motion that
Supervisor
we do that.
McGowan, you can make a motion, but Supervisor McGowan had a question, had his hand up.
Oh, no, I was gonna make a motion. I kind of like that idea. We gotta tighten the belt, so I'll second it there for Claudia.
Okay,
Thank you, Supervisor McGowan.
I have a question.
any discussion? Okay. Go ahead, Supervisor McDevitt.
Thank you very much, Matt. Specifically, the dates involved, when this will in fact begin.
I
Is
was,
it effective today? Is it effective,
I would suggest that the hirings that are in the process would continue as reviewed by our administrator, and then going forward, any new ones. And I know that Administrator Moore had his hand up.
Yeah, this is already being done. We have a notice to fill the vacancy forms. It requires my authorization as well as the budget officer and the committee chair. We haven't approved any vacancy fills since the get-go unless they're related to public safety or public health or the vital continuity of operations.
Treasurer Swan, you had your hand up.
Yeah, thank you. I was just kind of echoing what Ryan just said, that we kind of do that now. I think that it's a good idea to just say, let's pause on this, but also to have some sort of review to make sure that we're not eliminating a vital position. So some sort of a review process to make sure that if we've got a key person that we can still fill that position, but prove it. In other words, the department has to prove it.
Okay, anybody else have any discussion with this?
well, sorry, Chairman.
Superintendent Ajos?
I just had a quick question. I'm currently in the process. I have notice of intents that have already been approved, so I can still fill those positions, correct?
When were they approved? Back in February?
That is correct.
Send me the-
February,
Send me the titles and what they are, and we can figure that out.
I will do.
Brad?
I just want to, put it out there, once again, and nothing against, Kevin and hiring, even though he is pre-approved, but, if it's something right now that we can just hold back a little bit longer until we can figure out what's going on and how the money situation is, if we're all putting a little extra into what we're doing at the way that things are right now. So, and I'm not saying no to everything, but really, let's give it some thought. If we haven't had it this long, can we go a couple more months or something? Something like that. And we just got to think little things because they add up. Thank you.
Supervisor Bramer.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, my idea is, or my sense is that we should hold off and not fill any positions. If someone feels that it is critical that we need to fill it, then bring it to committee and we'll review it and approve it if it is necessary.
That's
And
what we do.
Put this on pause for 6 months. Well, that's not what's happening right now, Ryan. There are positions getting filled.
Those vacancy fill forms are approved by committees, and then the committee chair signs it.
The committee chair, but it's not coming to the whole committee.
It does come to the whole committee. It always does.
Okay, is there any,
I thought that was not the case. If it's just a position that's being emptied, like someone gets promoted or retires.
No, it always comes to the committee.
Supervisor Wild.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. My only concern is we might delay some essential hiring. If we have to wait for a month or a month and a half or heaven forbid 2 months, because it's going to require a Board of Supervisors review. I tend to put my trust in Ryan and you and our chairman to make the right decisions with this right now.
Okay, is there anybody else that would want to weigh in on this?
I would just like to ask another question if I can, Matt.
Go ahead,
I'm
Supervisor.
trying to understand if indeed we have a check and a balance, a control currently where any positions come before committee or voted on in committee, which would subsequently be voted on by the full board. And I'm posing this question because I don't know, is the resolution as proposed doing anything? Or do we not in fact have a control in place which actually takes care of this? And I'm asking it because I don't know.
I think from hearing the process from Administrator Moore and the current process provides those checks and balances. If there's something different, then I guess we have a comment here from Kevin Garrity.
Yeah, the only thing, this is not the first time we've had to do this. We did this back in 2008. And this is kind of sending a message out to our department heads. Do not ask to fill positions unless you absolutely feel that you need to. So we're asking the department heads to do that. There is a review process. Everything is approved by committees because we instituted that back in 08 or 09, back when. But I would just say the message should go to the department heads unless it's absolutely necessary. Don't put forth an intent to fill a vacancy. And certainly speak with the county administrator about it.
Okay, Supervisor Bramer.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I can withdraw my motion. That's fine. I have some concerns about why we have positions on here being filled in May and June. And, maybe can we hold off on those? Why do we have those on there? If, we're trying to clamp down on spending. If those people haven't already been hired or offered the jobs, let's not do that right now. So I'll withdraw my motion is the bottom line. And I do think we need to send a message to the department heads about this, like Supervisor Garrity just said.
Okay, do we need Brad to withdraw his second and then it's off?
No, the motion is off the table.
Okay. Okay, well, we'll just send that, we'll have Administrator Morris send that message and we'll follow through with our process. Okay, and also related to your question on the vacancies, I guess you would have to identify which ones you're talking about, and Administrator Moore and Trish and Jackie could probably give you the background on those. Administrator Moore?
Do you want me to read a draft of the message, or do you want me to just send a message?
I think I trust you to send the message.
Okay.
Be nice.
Okay, item B, request to allow a one-time extension for the use of vacation carryover and floating holiday time to December 20th, 2020 for CSEA and out-of-unit employees. Did you want to explain this, Treasurer Swan?
Yeah, sure. Heidi, my payroll supervisor, brought this to me, and it was a thought that because of what's going on right now and people not being here and people having to work constantly, the June 1st deadline for rollover of vacation from 2019 and the first floating holiday of this year may not be able to be feasible to be met. So we thought maybe it would be appropriate to extend this to December 20th. And the reason for December 20th is that's the day before the last payroll of the year. And just allow people to take that vacation time that they've rolled over for 19 and use it in September instead of having to burn it up between now and June 1.
Okay, would someone like to bring this to the floor?
No, I have a question.
Let's get it on the floor. Supervisor McGowan, seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Okay, discussion, Kevin?
Yeah, have we gone to CSA with this?
I don't know. We ran it by Jackie. I guess Jackie would have to answer that. I have not. The reason I'm bringing it now, though, is because the June 1st deadline, we would have to get to the May board meeting in order to get it approved in time before the June 1st deadline.
I understand that, but I mean, anytime we do something with a contract, we certainly need to talk to the union officials about it.
I agree. I think we should.
Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, I have one question.
Okay.
Mike, has anybody taken a vacation since this is happening, since they've been at home getting paid?
A few people have, not any of the administrative people, not any of the people that are on administrative leave, but some of the people that are working at home and some of the people that are working, actually coming into work have taken a vacation day here and there. But no, we have not seen an awful lot of it being used yet.
Thank you.
Supervisor Wild?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I only have a thought about what would happen with DMV. There's going to be a backlog in amount of work that needs to be done. And if we let people go on vacation throughout the year and we don't really start and resume operations for another month or two, is that going to put us behind with the ability to maintain the staffing that we may need to do in some of these instances? DMV is just an example, but there may be others.
We're going to have to address this, I think, at the end of the year, because I believe there's going to be a problem with that. I think there's going to be a lot of people that don't have the opportunity to use their vacation this year. And we may have to address this at the end of the year as far as how much is allowed to be rolled over into 2021. I think that's going to happen at some point.
Supervisor McGowan?
Yes, thank you, Mike. That's a good question, but I think one of the advantages of moving this to the end of the year and maybe even possibly moving some over to 2020, this will deter some of the employees knowing that we're under the gun and that they've had so much time off at home, working from home or whatever I want to say, that I think it probably be the beneficial this way. If they're a true dedicated, good employee, that the ones that we have, that I think that they'll stay, and having this bank, we'll call it banking there, I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Wild?
Yeah, just one more, just a continuation of my first thought. I have no problem doing this for frontline workers, but could we do 50% or something like that for the others that are working from home? I mean, not be, working 8 hours a day or whatever we work a day. No,
Yes, I don't, I mean, we're just floating the idea out there, because I felt it was kind of the right thing to do for all of our employees, to not have them lose a lot of vacation time by June 1, just because of what's going on and they really can't take time right now.
Yeah, I agree. Ryan, what do you think? Mr. Moore?
I've never been opposed to this idea. I think that we're in a situation where it doesn't make any sense for people to use vacation, and in not allowing a carryover, it's more favorable to the later hired employees like me, who what happens with us is we accumulate up to a max, and then when we hit the max, you can't accumulate anymore. The earlier employees, they would get their vacation in buckets at the beginning of the year. And then at the end of the year, if it was use it or lose it, they get to carry forward a certain amount that they hadn't used. So it really is treating different classes of employees differently if we don't do it. And on that note, I would also, my advice, and I'm not the HR director, and I haven't talked to Jackie about it, but I would think that if you do it, you should do it, give the same benefit to all the people rather than who's in and who's not, because it'll give you a disparity with the union. But I would defer to Jackie on that.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've had a chance to talk to a few people about this very same issue, and I think we might want to encourage individuals who, like myself, over the years have enjoyed taking a day off, just a day off a week, and have a 4-day work week. I prefer, actually, unless I'm going someplace or have plans for the weekend, to take Wednesday off. That way I break up the week. I can recharge on Wednesday and then come back to work Thursday. I mean, it's not going to be a popular thing for a lot of people, but I think there are some people who might like the opportunity to run errands, do the things that they want to do during the week. And of course, that would start cutting away at some of the large amount of vacation time that they may have towards the end of the year. Just a thought.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, I'll call the question. Are you ready? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is that okay? Opposed?
No.
I have
So we
Mr.
have
McDonough.
one opposed. Okay. Okay. We'll go on to item number 2, referral from the Health Services Committee, Office of the Aging. Request to extend Aging Services Assistant, temp 20 hours per week, position until May 1st, 2020, at a cost of $2,750 to be covered completely by DSRIP funding. This room. Would someone like to bring this to the floor?
I'll bring that to the floor.
Seconded by Supervisor Frazier. Any discussion? Ready for the question? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. There's none opposed. Item number 3, referral from the Public Safety Committee, the Sheriff. Request to create and fill the new position of Patrol Officer number 65, base annual salary of $42,373, effective June 5th, 2020, to cover for Patrol Officer number 14, who has received military order to report for active duty service on June 4th, 2020, for a period of 400 days. Someone like to bring this to the floor? Supervisor Conover, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. Any discussion? We ready for the question? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Carried. Okay, thank you. Item number 4, request items to be discussed by the county administrator. Update on COVID-19 testing site. Mr. Moore?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you all know, we started up a COVID testing clinic. It's a drive-through clinic on the municipal campus. We started that April 9th. So we're finishing up our, what is that, third week? I'm not counting right. I think it's the third week. We've done close to 400 tests so far. The first week and a half, actually the first 2 weeks of this, we ran it out of that red tent that you've seen on our social media. And that tent belongs to the Department of Emergency Services. It was not an ideal setup because in the morning every day, the hospital staff and the county staff, the hospital staff, first of all, would have to bring all the testing equipment because there was no ability to lock it up inside that tent. And we would have to bail water out of it. Dan Durkee a couple of times took his shoes and socks off and stood in the cold water and cleaned out the tent. So what we, and this is not, we hope this is not going away anytime soon, that we continue to have enough testing kits to keep this test site going. So we looked into getting a more permanent structure for it, and Brian LaFleur went out, and as well as Superintendent Kevin Hajos went out and got some quotes. Those are all in your packet. They're under item 4. Versatile Trailer is the vendor that was chosen. The upfront cost to set it up was $858, and the monthly cost to rent it is $290. This is they call it a mobile command center. It's a trailer. It's out there right now for those of you who are on campus that want to take a look out the window and check it out. It was the lowest price out of all of the trailers that we priced. We also looked at a tent, like a standard tent rental that you would do for a party where you could put sides down. Brian's thought, as well as Janelle, I believe Brian and Janelle both agreed, is that having the trailer would be a better option because you can lock it up at night and you can keep some of the things that the nurses need inside there. So this is a notification that we've done this. It's covered under Janelle's authority as public health director, up to $5,000 to enter into contracts, and it'll be paid for out of a public health grant.
Excellent. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Supervisor McGowan?
No, do we need to bring this to the floor?
No.
Just a discussion?
It's informational, right?
Just discussion.
No, I think this is a great idea. It really, and coming in through the grant, I'm finding out, a lot of grants are coming out there for things to, to keep things flowing and to keep things safer. So, thank you, Ryan, for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go on to item number 5. Request items to be discussed by the county attorney.
Yes,
First
hi, good
thing we
morning.
have, good morning, Mary.
Sorry. So I actually have 3 items on my agenda. The last one didn't make it on, and I will explain that when we get to the 3rd item. But the first one is a settlement which is being recommended by Tom Clements. This is a Westmount resident. They owe the county $2,576. They have offered to pay the county $1,200, and Tom Clements is recommending that we take this settlement.
Excuse me, keep what?
Need a motion. I'll make a motion, we accept the settlement.
McGowan.
Attorney recommends.
I didn't, excuse me,
Okay,
I
we have
didn't hear
motion.
what Mary said at the end. Tom Clements recommended what?
That we take this settlement.
Oh, all right. I agree. I
So we have a
second it.
motion on the floor by seconded by Mr. McGowan.
What?
Any discussion? Call the question. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay,
Okay, so my second item, it relates to some outstanding debt that I don't know how to phrase this because there was some confusion that D&G may have owed the county some outstanding debt. the original number that was out there was around $2,100. When we sent this notice to D&G, they sent a notice back to the county. It was an electric bill that they had been paying. And the total of the electric bill was about $1,700. And this was for the electric being used by OES for their side of the building. So when you subtract out this electric bill, the outstanding debt goes down to $475. There was also a $75 fee that was assessed to D&G based on 5 months. And when you read the contract, the way I interpret that $75 is that it's a one-time charge. It's not a charge that's to be assessed every month. So when you subtract out that $75 that was applied for 5 months, you get down to the outstanding debt being $175. It's certainly up to the board, but at this point, my recommendation would just be to write off the $175 because at this point, I'm not even sure that that is owed to us either.
Okay, Supervisor Conover. Bring it to the floor, seconded by Supervisor McGowan. Discussion? Supervisor McGowan.
I guess my question is that the electric bill for OES was $1,700
Correct.
for storage compared to a business who's running machines in that. I'm just a little confused. I mean, the lights are pretty much dark on the OES side most of the time, you know, and what little trick or chargers we had maybe on something like that. So I'm a little confused. The electric bill seems really high for storage compared to a business that was running. I'm just a question.
Sure. So that was
Okay,
a number of months that electric bill was being paid by D&G. And there also was a separate, I don't know what to call them, but
Meter?
yes, there was a separate meter for that side of the building. So, I mean, if we have any questions about it, that's something we'd have to ask the electric company.
Okay.
Well, if there were separate meters for the
Superintendent
OES, then
Superintendent Ajos is wanting to weigh in here. He knows what's going on over there. Kevin?
When Brian, when we asked Brian to move all his equipment down there, we had Frank Lehman's from Buildings and Grounds go in and put in all new electrical, all new lights on Brian's side, as well as outlets. But they were still on the panel that basically that D&G was paying for. So what we ended up doing, when we put all that in, we also put a separate meter in there just to track how much power that Brian was using. And Brad, you're right to some degree that it was just lights, but Brian kept his equipment down there on chargers for the most of the time. And the meter reading that D&G sent us was 17,121 kilowatts used. And that's exactly what was read off that meter when I went down and took a look at it.
Okay, thank you. There's no further discussion. I'll call the question. Or do we have, yeah, we have a motion. I believe we have a motion in a second, don't we?
Yes, we have a motion by
Amanda?
Mr. Conover, seconded by Mr. McGowan.
Okay. Call the question to negate this $175 charge. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried. Okay, your third item, Mary.
Yes, and I apologize for not putting this on the agenda, but I have to give Don Lehman some credit here. He brought it to my attention and I realized it's a board decision. So I do want to talk about the Forest Enterprises decision by the appellate division. And the reason I want to talk about it is the board needs to decide whether or not we want to make a motion to appeal to the Court of Appeals. And we will need to do that by May 8th, which is why I need to bring it to you today. We do not have a right to appeal this case. It doesn't meet any of the criteria to bring it to the Court of Appeals just by right. We would have to make a motion to the New York Court of Appeals and ask them to hear this appeal. I don't suggest that we appeal this decision, and my reasoning for that is, if you remember, Forest Enterprises was asking for $2.2 million. The trial court said that it was only worth $270,000, and the appellate division came back and they did raise it to $520,000, but that's still well below the $2.2 million that the plaintiff had sought in the first instance. If we go to the Court of Appeals, the Court of Appeals has 4 different choices. They could say, no, the trial court was right, it's only worth $270,000. They could agree with the appellate division, so it would be the 520. They could actually make their own ruling and say that the county owes them $2.2 million, or they could remand the case back to the trial court and we'd have to do this trial all over again, and we could end up with the $2.2 million at that point. So my recommendation is that we just let this decision lie, but that is the board's decision, and I think it's important that you all make that decision.
Okay, Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, thank you. Being on the Queensbury Planning Board, I remember when he was trying to get all this approved, and then knowing the whole situation, and then talking to Ryan afterwards, after the case, Mary speaks very, very much spot on. It's a huge gamble, because there was a lot of things that should have happened at the town planning that would have helped out, but nobody knew all this and the way it all comes together. So I hate to say let's give them money, but I believe this is really the cheaper way out.
Okay, Supervisor McDevitt.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that, Supervisor McGowan. We at least have a defined number in terms of what our downside and upside is here, but there's a big difference between 520 and what was the other number? $2.2 million. This is defined. We know what it is, and I would take it and run.
Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A question for Mary. Mary, you're asking us to make a decision without a lot of information. And one of the questions that popped into my mind was whether or not you felt that the most recent decision had any flaws in the decision-making process. Sorry.
I guess I feel like that's a hard question. I mean, I didn't think that they would disturb the trial court's decision on this, and they did. They chose to actually they didn't take either appraiser's appraisal. They basically came up with their own way to appraise the land. But I don't know if it's worth the risk of taking that to the Court of Appeals and asking them to either make a determination about which appraisal report is more accurate, or having them come up with their own appraisal as well, and giving that land a value that they think is correct. I mean, obviously I don't 100% agree with the appellate division because they did raise the cost of the land, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable challenging that.
Just to follow on, if you don't
Supervisor
mind.
Conover.
Follow on? Thank you.
Okay, follow up.
Yes.
Supervisor Wild.
Mary, what's the possibility of having another appraisal or two done and taking into consideration what the court did, and whether that would be enough of a compelling argument, so to speak, for us to consider possibly going back and trying to save what we're talking about, $200,000.
I don't know what the cost of the appraisal would be, but at this point, the record is set, and whatever we take to the Court of Appeals is already set. We cannot introduce any new evidence. We cannot introduce anything new to the Court of Appeals. If it were to be remanded back to trial by the Court of Appeals, then we would start from ground zero and we could get a new appraiser. We could have a new appraisal done. But honestly, at that point, you're talking about so much money in expert fees and, you know, trial fees. We would obviously do it in-house this time, but that's still a whole lot of money.
Understood. Thank you.
Supervisor Conover?
Yeah, I think everyone should keep in mind that the purpose of this whole process, the whole purpose of the condemnation and taking process is to protect the property owner, to ensure that the property owner is properly and fairly compensated for our exercising our police powers to take their property. And the whole process is designed to protect the property owner, so that if we exercise our police powers, we're required to pay what is finally determined as the fair value to ensure that the property owner is made whole. And I just would ask everyone to keep that in mind in this discussion, because it seems to me it's getting more of a typical adversarial kind of dynamic, and that's not what this is at all. It's a process which includes his right to appeal, to ensure that our taking provides him proper compensation. And I just would put that all out there, because I think that way we don't want to go too far afield in terms of thinking that this is some type of a combative situation. Thank you.
Supervisor Bramer?
Thank you, Chairman. I was raising my electronic hand too. Thanks for calling on me. I completely agree with the county attorney. This is not worth it to try to go up to the Court of Appeals. It's a lot of effort and very, very little chance that we will get anywhere. So that's my take on the legal side without having really analyzed the decision. I'm just going on, you know, past experience of being able to reach the Court of Appeals and having them even take up our case. My question as far as what we can do going forward, is there an opportunity to make this landowner whole by returning the land, since we do not have that extension going forward any longer? I know there's going to be people who don't agree with that, but one way to make this landowner whole and to stop bleeding money out from the county's coffers is to return this land to that person. Thank you.
Supervisor Wild, and then Supervisor Conover.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Supervisor Bramer hit the point I was trying to make. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Conover.
There isn't anything more important you can do for an airfield than to acquire adjacent property and navigation easements. I don't know when. My crystal ball isn't good enough to know if and when this field might get expanded in some fashion or not in some fashion. But the FAA saw fit to want to support our acquisition of these navigation easements. And I know we're looking that they are considering actually picking up the increase. I don't know where we are relative to that. But I would say in terms of being in the airfield business, there isn't anything more important to an airfield than the acquisition of adjacent properties and or the acquisition of navigation easements. One can recite all the airfields that have been pushed in on and all of the issues that have been associated with those airfields after that has happened. And believe me, the would-haves and could-haves and should-haves are there for the history of those airfields. So the fact that we protected this airfield, we've protected the future and future possibilities relative to this airfield. As far as I'm concerned, it was necessary and money well spent. Thank you.
Okay, Supervisor Beatty.
Thank
You're on
you,
mute.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. This wasn't well thought out from the beginning. We exercised police mentality by taking land through eminent domain. I can't disagree more with Mr. Conover's position on this. So the state has decided man is worth $520,000 for the land. To spend more time, money, resources to appeal this, to me, makes no sense at all. I do like Ms. Bramer's suggestion that maybe we offer it back, if that would suffice, and then we could get off the hook for the actual money. I don't know legally if we can do that or not. But this just goes to show when we make very poor decisions up on this board, how it costs the county taxpayers, the federal taxpayers, and the state taxpayers significant dollars. And taking a man's land is so repugnant to me anyway, that I say we cut our losses now and we end this boondoggle. Thanks.
Supervisor McGowan.
Yes, I just wanted to wish Doug a happy birthday. I don't know if you saw the message there.
Okay. Happy birthday,
Bring that
Doug.
up, Brad. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. We ready for the question?
We do? What is it? I'm sorry.
I believe the motion, wasn't there a motion and a second on this? I'll have to rely on Amanda
No, we don't have a motion.
to not.
Mary says that a motion is not needed.
If you're not going to proceed
Oh,
with the appeal, I do not need a motion. If you want to proceed with the appeal, I would need a motion.
Okay.
Can I
Okay,
just-
I'm not seeing Supervisor Bramer.
I guess, thanks, Chairman. Mary, would you be looking at doing this in-house or would you be seeking outside appellate counsel?
To do the appeal?
Correct. If just to consider our options.
No, we would do this all in my office.
I guess my thought is still it's not worth us for us to spend the time, internal resources.
Okay, I don't see any support for moving anything forward here. So we'll move on to pending items. We have none.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I had my hand
Oh,
up.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up.
It is, if I'm understanding the county attorney, what she's saying is that she needs a motion from the board to be able to move forward with finalizing this situation. Is that what I'm hearing correctly? I just want to make sure I
No,
understand.
it was for an appeal.
Relative.
It was, she needed a motion if we were going to appeal.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so there are no pending items under personnel or higher education. We'll move into positions filled on emergency basis since last meeting. Countryside, we had 1, institutional aid, number 2, part-time grade 3, base annual salary of $28,026 due to promotion. And I'll open it up one more time to see if there's anything else. Privilege of the floor. Supervisor Bramer.
I'm going to object to that filling of that position. Can someone explain why that was necessary? I assume it is. I just want to know, hear the reasoning and understand that we're doing that only because there is a necessary hole up at Countryside that can't be filled with existing staff.
Well, I don't know if we have anybody here to speak on that position.
I
The
can,
meeting.
Amanda, I can give you information just procedurally. The rules of the board allow for emergency filling if there's a vacancy and there's not a committee meeting scheduled within 2 weeks. It still requires the same process where it goes to the review by the county administrator, the budget officer, HR, all of that, and then it's signed off on in between. Those do not go through committee. They're just signed off by the committee chair, and then they come to personnel for reporting. So possibly that's something, I believe that Ryan stopped all of those, so there are no more emergency fills. This was something that was done
Amanda, do you have a date on when that went through?
Yes, it looks like that one, the signatures on this one were in early April. Yep, for April 5th, April 5th, 6th, and then the final signature from Mr. Driscoll was on April 10th. Hold on for just a second. I can give you the explanation on that one from Amy McBurn, but I think they needed it. It was due to promotion, but they couldn't not have someone in that spot.
To answer your question, Supervisor Bramer?
I mean, I guess, I don't want any more of these slipping by us. And do we have that control in place now?
Well, there's always the same control in place. When these emergency fills come from the department head, they go to HR, they check off on the information to make sure that all of the background on the form is correct. But then the next step is they go to the county administrator. So it's my understanding that Ryan's been looking at them and that's where they've been stopping. We had some that were from DPW that I know were starting to come through and then they stopped with Ryan. So I believe that the controls are already in place with Ryan, where unless they're absolutely necessary, they're not even making the adjustment.
Is that your understanding too, Ryan?
It's in the rules of the board. It's not just my understanding. That's how we do it.
And I'll just remind you, I mean, these are signed off by the budget officer. It's, committee chair and the administrator. So it has a lot of oversight on every one of these positions. Supervisor Wild.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After all, this is countryside. That's our highest risk individuals in the county. I don't think we should question whether or not they need more staff if they say they need more staff to protect those citizens.
Okay, but there's also a laundry person there. Do we need the laundry person there for, I mean, maybe we do. I'm just saying, please, we need to look at this so we don't have to lay off people.
Okay, is there anybody else that has anything to discuss? If not, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Wild, seconded by Supervisor.
Hold on, do
Ernie?
we have public
Was there any-
comment?
Hold on.
No, I was just going to interject. We do not have any no public comment on the YouTube page or to my email or Facebook page.
Thank you, Don, for reminding me of that virtual opportunity there. Okay, so we
Not a
have a
problem.
motion and a second to adjourn. All's in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Amanda.
Thank you.